Shana Tova, everyone. So good to see you. So good to see faces I see every week, faces I see only once in a while. So good to see you. So this month leading up to Rosh Hashanah is called Elul. And it's a time of reflection, some inner work. But for me, it was also a time of many funerals. I performed more funerals in the month of Elul this year than I had in the past 6 months. And in the span of 3 days, for example, I performed 2 funerals, both held in a torrential downpour of South Florida. And this one happened just this past Friday. And it really stuck with me. I want to share it with you. I was called in the night before to officiate. The director insisted that the family wanted to do everything by the book, but also did not know the book at all. In other words, we would call them today Jewish. But their beloved mother, who also lived a similarly Jewish life, she insisted on an authentic Jewish funeral service, burial, with an authentic rabbi. That's where I came in. So the funeral was small. There were 9 people in total, myself included. The funeral director and even the gravediggers, who are Jewish, were there amongst the 9. As I stood there, rain soaking through my suit, I wondered, what kind of funeral is this going to be? I had spoken with the family and learned about their beloved mother, but a formal eulogy for 3 people. It's a little strange. So instead, I leaned into the rituals themselves. The burial, the tefillot, the prayer that we say, the ancient choreography of a Jewish farewell. And the scene was stark and simple. For those who've been to a Jewish burial, you know, 2 shovels standing upright, a mound of dirt beside the grave. And as I looked at that pine box, the authentic, simple pine box, and I thought about the woman inside, who was not especially religious at all. And I thought about that idea that she wished to have this burial in the frommest cemetery, the most religious cemetery in South Florida, where everything is done by the book. Even the grave is dug by Jews. And I thought, how would they react to the strange ritual dance that they were about to see? A dance that I've led so many times over the last 15 years, I could hardly count them. I stopped after 200. But what struck me the most about this holy moment was not the simplicity of the burial, but it was the reaction of the daughter of the mother. She was grieving, of course, but she was also in amazement. Every ritual, placing the casket in the ground, reciting the prayers, taking the Israeli earth, taking the shovel, the back of the shovel, every single thing moved her deeply. Now, at times, I have to be honest with you. The words that explanations that I give, that the explanations at funerals, they can feel a bit repetitive. I find myself saying the same things over and over again because people need to hear them, but sometimes I'm not really saying them. But that wasn't the case with this daughter. For her, each word was a revelation. And then just as we finished, the rain stops. A ray of light pierced through the clouds. She looked up, her face wet both from tears and rain. And I could see in her eyes that she felt the presence of God. That moment reminded me that sometimes we experience God not through polished words or rituals done exactly as they should, but through raw encounters. When something strikes us as wholly new, even if it was written thousands of years ago. The high holidays that we begin tonight, they call us to look at those things in life that we often pass by. Things like life and death, joy and sadness, loss and renewal with renewed eyes. This is a way that we do tshuva, to return to a place where we recognize that God, yes, God is in the world. These are the realities that we live with every day, but most of the year we pass by him. During the Unatana Tokef, though, tomorrow, we're going to sing these words in the same tune as last year, but I want you to listen to the words. Berosh Hashanah yikatevun, uvyom tzom kippur yichatemun, kama ya'avrun v'chama yibarun, mi yichya u'mi yamut. On Rosh Hashanah, their decree is inscribed, and on Yom Kippur is sealed. How many will pass away and how many will be created? Who will live and who will die? But repentance, tshuva, tefillah, and tzedakah can annul the severity of the decree. On these days, we are asked to pause, to see what has become ordinary can be extraordinary. Like the gift of being alive, the fragility of our days, the sacred weight of our choices. In doing so, we recover the capacity to be astonished by what we experience every day. And it makes those special moments even holier. What would it look like for us to look at these holidays with different eyes? This is what Rabbi Jack Reamer once shared with me in the name of Rabbi Shlomo Riskin, very well-known rabbi in Israel and Efrat. He recalled the words of the psalmist, Achat sha'alti me'et Hashem. One thing I ask of God. We're going to say this tonight. But then the psalmist immediately lists two things: to dwell in the house of the Lord and to visit the house of the Lord. So Rabbi Riskin says, okay, which one is it? Do I want to visit or do I want to live there? And he says, the reason that this is here is to teach us that there are two kinds of worshipers. There are those who come regularly. They know the words fluently. Their strength is their familiarity. They don't have to struggle with the words. They flow naturally. But they have a weakness. Familiarity can breed complacency. They may recite the words without thinking, the words spilling from their mouth without actually reaching their hearts. Those who come rarely face the opposite challenge. They stumble over the words, struggle with Hebrew, maybe even the choreography of the service. This is their disadvantage. But their strength is that they feel the prayers anew, fresh. Every phrase, every word is an encounter. So the psalmist prays for the best of both, the fluency of the regular and the freshness of the newcomer. He longs to be rooted and at home, and yet to be struck with wonder as though hearing the words for the first time. That funeral reminded me of this truth. For me, the rituals were familiar. But for this daughter, they were astonishing. And through her eyes, I was reminded of the depth that unfortunately I had stopped seeing. There's a teaching from the Baal Shem Tov. He had one pesky student. His name was Mendel. And, oh, sorry, that's a different story. That's for tomorrow. It's a different story. This is another story about the Baal Shem Tov. He would travel each year. There was a man who traveled each year to pray with the Baal Shem Tov. And he had a son who was able to read, recite the prayers. And after the boy turned 13, the father brought him on Yom Kippur. Why? Because he was worried that his son would accidentally eat and sin. So he carried his flute with him because he used to play the flute as he watched the sheep in the field. And during the long prayers, the boy sat silently. He didn't know the words of Shachrit or Musaf, Mincha, Ne'ilah, but he wanted to pull out his flute. Twice he asked his father permission. And twice the father scolded him. You'll be breaking the rules of the holiday. Put that flute away. Finally, during Ne'ilah, the final prayers of Yom Kippur, The boy could contain himself no longer. He pulls out the flute, raises to his lips, and blew one piercing, heartfelt note. The congregation gasped. But the Baal Shem Tov, he stopped the service. He shortened the prayers. He ended Yom Kippur on the spot. And he explained to them the boy's note had carried all of our prayers to heaven. He had no words, but he had pure intentions. The Talmud teaches us, Rahmana liba baye, God desires the heart. Sometimes our most powerful prayer is not the perfect one in Hebrew, not the one that follows the prayer book flawlessly, but the one that comes from the deepest recesses of your heart. It was these stories, the funeral, the psalmist, the flute, they converge into a lesson for us for this year. We are a mixed congregation. Some of us regulars show up. We know the service, we know the melodies, we're at home. But then there are some who have never been here. Newcomers, perhaps only on the high holidays. Perhaps they're unsure of the Hebrew. Perhaps they don't know one word, and they feel like outsiders. Here's the truth about what makes a congregation. You need both. You need the regulars to provide stability, tradition, fluency. The newcomers, they bring that awe, the freshness, the discovery of our tradition. And all of us, whether seasoned or stumbling, we need to find the ways to pray both with words and with freshness. That is the danger of the novelty, that the words remain foreign to us. But at the same time, we must engage with them. The aspiration of the high holidays is actually to join the two together, to know the words deeply, yet to encounter them as if for the first time. And so my blessing for all of us on this day, which is 2 days, but really one, may we combine the devotion of the regular with the awe of the newcomer. May our prayers be fluent yet never stale, familiar yet always alive with wonder. When we recite Avinu Malkeinu, may we not only say the words by memory, but feel their power anew. When we hear the shofar, may it not just be another sound that we hear every year, but may it pierce our hearts as if we're hearing it for the very first time. Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva. Bring us back, God, to that place of innocence and wonder. We know that we cannot return to Eden, but for these 10 days of tshuva, let us sit in the garden. Let us taste again what it is like to pray with awe, to live with wonder, and to feel God's presence as though for the first time.